Okay, so the good. Now, I am very confused about what this film is called, right? Because the Odeon lists it as The Good Boy. You go online and it's just Good Boy, but then it's also called Heel and says they changed the name from Good Boy so they don't people don't mix it up with that excellent horror film with the dog, right? So I don't know, right? I'm gonna say the good boy, but AKA heel, right? You know what I mean? Oh boy, sometimes shit just ain't easy, you know? Anyway, this is the new film from Jan Komasa, written by Bartek Bartosik and Naqqash Khalid. It is produced by Jeremy Thomas, uh, Jesse Skolamowski, Iwa Paikowoshka. It is co-produced by Maya, also Zbigniew Domaglaski, Ivan Kelava, Leon Robaniski, Malgazata Zek. Executive produced by Peter Watson, Lucas Poniski, Michelle Marshall. Sorry, people. Naomi Despres, Caroline Cooper Childs, associate produced by Alexandra Bieliska. Who else do we have? Okay, and line production from Joanna Tresleka, Kevin Proctor, and we have Nick O'Hagan as a consulting producer. Okay, the score was handled by Abel Kozanowski. Michael Dimek is on cinematography. Agnieszka Jinska is on editing duties. Nina Gold and Martin Ware took care of the casting. Fletcher Jarvis is production design. Art direction, we have Rebecca Barker McLean, Mariana Mikolajak Lizeka, Tony Child on set decoration. Julian Day was costumes wardrobe. Hair and makeup, we have Marek Brikaniski, Agnieszka Hodowana, Nisha Joseph, Malgazata Jerzawik, Antonia Lazareski, Waldemir Pokromoski, and Beta Rolowaska. Oof, I know I have just destroyed those names, man. Stunts, Damian Dambaski, Sebastian Kaminsky, Alexandra Kreizameka, Christoph Kremenecki, Tomasz Krezamecki, Adrian Stakura, and Jacob Zell. So cast, right? We have Chris, played by Stephen Graham. His wife Kathryn, played by Andrea Riseborough. Their son Jonathan, played by Kit Rakusen. Then there's Tommy, played by Anson Boon. Right? His girlfriend Gabby, played by Savannah Stein. There is, I think the other girl at the club is Lindsay, played by Mila Jankowaska. Right? Steve, played by Callum Buford. Jack, played by Noah Valentine. Mikey, played by Noah Manzoor. Then we got Rena, played by Monica Frajaka. Okay. Clement, played by Masej Stepanica. The young boy we see in the video, played by Austin Haynes. Helen, played by Helena Calvert. The police officer is played by Jessica Johnson. I think his mum is played by Hannah Kozłowska. But yes. What's it about? Well, a 19-year-old criminal revels in a life of drugs, parties, and violence. One night, on a bender with his reckless friends, he is separated from his group and abducted by an unknown figure. Though he is no stranger to inflicting violence, he is horrified when he wakes with a chain around his neck in the basement of an isolated suburban family home. I don't know if you would call it suburban. Yeah, I don't know, I think that's more country. Anyway, he soon meets the residents, a twisted family unit consisting of the well-to-do Chris, his near-spectral wife Kathryn, and their 10-year-old son Jonathan. The dysfunctional family sets out to reform Tommy's unruly behaviour, subjecting him to a twisted and violent rehabilitation process. He must comply with their relentless mind games as he frantically seeks a way out. So yeah, that is the film, people. And I had no clue what the fuck this was going to be, if I'm going to be honest with you. You know what I mean? The way, like, there's the poster for it makes it, like, it had a Heretic kind of feel. You know what I mean? So you think this is going to be a horror. I was in two minds about going to this. The only screening was late at night. And I'm like, do I want to do this? You know what I mean? But Stephen Graham is great. And yeah, I didn't really know who else was in it. I didn't even look, but I recognized Stephen Graham, which is a shock because a lot of times, boy, I can't pick people out of a lineup. You know what I mean? But yeah, I went and this was really well done. Really well done. Like, I read originally, right? The script was in Polish and the film was meant to be set in Warsaw. But they changed it to an English script set in Yorkshire because they thought it might resonate more. Now, to be honest with you, even if this was set in Poland, I think it would still work. I mean, if it was in Polish, then that would be an issue. I wouldn't have been able to watch it. So I'm glad it is in English, but you know, I don't think the country matters. It's mainly, is it a good story? And this was a good story, right? It's, yeah, because, you know, we have Tommy out with his friends, with his girlfriend, Gabby, And he's a shit. Right? Tommy is not a nice person. Well, he acts like he doesn't give a fuck about Gabby. Right? He's always trying to push drugs onto her. And she doesn't want them. Right? But he's pushing things onto her. He's then copping off with other girls, right? He's beating up people. He's knocking things out of people's hands. Nearly gets into a fight with a bouncer, right? It's just not good. He's out then, you know what I mean? Because him and all his friends are just wrecked, but he kind of wanders off. And we see him, you know, there's a couple sitting at a bus stop, and then he just decides to go and use it as a bathroom facility, let's just say. So they quickly move, right? And this is just in the opening minutes of the film, so you really do get a look at who this guy is, and it's not nice, right? Not nice. Just trying to pick fights, just being a piece of work. So after countless drugs, right, countless beers and other alcohol, he's staggering down the street, can hardly stand up. And then our point of view shifts. And it feels like we're behind a car window. And then we kind of get the sense the door is opened and someone is moving. And we see Tommy kind of look and stumble, and then it all kind of cuts. And next thing, we are with him, and he's in the basement. Well, no. Actually, we go to Rena, right? Who's meeting a guy, Chris, that's who we find out it is, and she's getting employed. Now, we know that her immigration status is sketchy because this isn't it's all a bit of a shifty job interview. So you just think, okay, if you're doing it this way, there's a reason. So we jump to the conclusion that this must be the guy that took Tommy. And that's what it is. All right. So he's showing around the house, takes her down in the basement, and there's friggin' Tommy chained up. So it's just like, oh, yeah, this isn't good. And what does this mean? Because some of the questions that were asked of Rena at the beginning made you kind of think something else might be going on, right? So, yeah, obviously Tommy ain't happy. Tommy is effing and blinding, you know what I mean? Just trying to inflict violence, because that's the way he's usually done things. It's not going to work because the chain is only a certain length, and they've got a taser. There's a taser, right? There is pepper spray. There's also chloroform. And all of these things are used to keep Tommy under control. But I will say, it's not like he's getting tased and everything and beaten up willy-nilly. No. You know what I mean? They are talking to him like, hey, would you like some food? Would you like to, you know what I mean? It's this weird kind of vibe, right? And what really is the trippy thing is the score to the film. Because we have this really kind of pleasant, soothing music playing as a counterbalance to, you know what I mean, some of the visuals. And even though the visuals, when we've left the streets from the beginning, it's not like they are violent, but they are, you know what I mean, clearly controlling. But the score does not kind of reflect that, right? Which is, one of those really kind of like, oh, this is interesting, you know? So we have all of this, and it's one of those things, right? So we have Kathryn and Chris, and they are trying to rehabilitate Tommy, right? They're giving him books to read. There's one point, and he gets given a book. He says, "I don't fucking read." And Gary's like, "Oh, I mean, it is for 16-year-olds, so the language should be." He says, "No, I can read. Who just fucking reads though, right?" And it's just these like little moments that do make you chuckle. It's not a laugh out loud or, riot all the way through, but there are these kind of like weird contrasting moments that just, man, you just laugh, right? You just have to laugh at what is going down. You know what I mean? Which is, it's well timed, right? The pacing, the balance, all of this stuff. It is really well thought out, right? The film is kind of like a slow burn. So a slow burn, but it's something that doesn't drag, right? It is just this gentle, like, meander down this path of Tommy's life, right? Because he's getting shown his actions, and you can see that they do start to make him feel really uncomfortable. There's a point where I believe there are tears coming down his face. You know what I mean? After watching some of the things he's done. And it's like, oh, okay, right? Because, listen, no one should ever abduct anyone off the street. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not a thing that you would do. But you can see that this weird rehabilitation is having somewhat of an effect on him. Now, obviously, there's like Stockholm syndrome. So there's a moment where you're thinking, is that but then you're kind of like, no, that's not happening. But there is a distinct shift. There is a distinct shift. Now, we do have another storyline going on with Rena as well, which, yeah, that gets kind of interesting. And it's got a weird kind of resolution that I don't think a lot of people necessarily think of as it plays out. Now, there are elements of what happens with that one where you just think, yeah, before the gate shut, right? And yeah, I think this. And so there was bits where I'm like, okay, I can see where this could play to. But the final is just like, oh, okay. Now, there is definitely more to Chris and Kathryn that we don't fully find out. There are hints, there are assumptions that get made in the film. But yeah, we don't fully get them. But yeah, this film is, it's funky, right? It's this psychological drip. You know what I mean? It's like water torture with a drip. You know what I mean? Because it definitely has an effect, but it kind of creeps up on you, which is very interesting. Right? Very interesting. Now, as the film draws to a close, right? Because this whole thing goes down. And I will say that I did assume some of what was going to happen and did happen, but there was a different element that took place, which I did think, okay, that didn't see that one coming. Right? So, there's definitely, things in the story that you can, I think you can probably predict, depending on, how you consume films and that kind of thing, right? But they do still manage to catch you off guard slightly, right? To do a few things where you're like, oh, okay, let's go. And yeah, there's definitely something to that, right? There's definitely something to that, to be able to really bring something to fruition, and in a way that can, it can intrigue you, it can capture you, but it can still surprise you a little. And I don't think we're getting a lot of films that do this. Like, the cast was great. The cast was really great. Tommy, right? He's playing this shit at the beginning, but he also has to be able to portray this gradual shift, right? But do it in a way that isn't like, because you're not going to go from where he started to then being Eliza Doolittle. You know what I mean? It's not a complete My Fair Lady, but there is a change. There is a change. And I think there is more of a change than Tommy even realizes, which you definitely see at a point, right? But then you also have to be able to, with this change, see the regret, but show it in a way that isn't completely obvious, right? Because you're being held hostage. You do not want to give your jailers the satisfaction of, being like, I'm succumbing to. So all of this is very subtle, and Anson does a fantastic job with it, right? With Chris and Kathryn, right? Andrea and Stephen do a really good job with these characters too. Right? At the beginning, I think Kathryn's been ill. And so she does seem, I think in the description on the American website, it's like Wraith-like. And she does seem like that, right? Like this ghost inhabiting this space, right? This specter. But she kind of reawakens. You got Jonathan, their son, who is very inquisitive. Right, I think there's definitely some assumptions that you make about him. Right, is he their real son? Like, what's happening with that front? But he's like, wants to be helpful. Wants to be good. Right, because because it's not just Tommy. With everyone, there is this praise when you do things that are good, like good boy, sunshine, right? Just all of these kind of adjectives get thrown around and used. And you can see that Jonathan is, very much, down for it all, right? He is caught up in this, I don't know, this kind of rapture. And so all of this gets played out and you buy it, right? We see Rena and, her coming out of her shell, right? And then being comfortable, but then feeling fearful again, and just this whole thing with her, right? And Gabby, right? Watching her at the start to then where she's got to, but this other shift, which is very interesting. Like, you do wonder, why is she hanging around with Tommy? But you get the sense that they are in a small town, right? So there's not a lot of options. And I think when there's not a lot of options, you succumb to the environment eventually, unless there is something to hold on to. You know what I mean? You need that lighthouse to keep you on track, and she doesn't have that. And we see the effects of it all, which, you know what I mean? There's so many intriguing parts here. So many intriguing parts, man. Like, I don't know if I said, but this was oh, how do you pronounce homie's name again? Oh, names, people. Jan Komasa, right? It's his first English language film. Right? First English language film. And you gotta say, homie knocked it out of the park. Right? Just look, the way it's shot, the angles, everything like that, the way we get brought into everything and then taken back, so we're kind of voyeurs of the action. This really is a really well done film, but not a lot of promotion. You know what I mean? Not a lot of promotion, right? It's from Signature. They didn't even send it through. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. It's a shame if this film doesn't get watched. So I hope it does, because they really did a tremendous job. They really did. So people, if you have an opportunity, if you see it playing at the Cineplex near you, because as I said, not a lot of screenings. Not a lot of screenings throughout the day for this one. Right? So if you see it, people, please go check out Good Boy, The Good Boy, Heal, whatever it is called where you are. Go watch it, because it is a really good piece of cinema. It really is. So yeah, The Good Boy, Heal, it's worth a watch.